And thank you so much for watching right now. Today is May 18th, and you're watching us here on the CBS 8 app. Want to jump into our top story here today. It's our number one story for a reason. It's one that we've been waiting on for a number of years, Jack, and that is the murder trial of Larry Millete, one that has been years in the making, a number of delays, a number of reports that would surface that were sort of these, big things that would happen. And still, at the end of the day, we don't even have a body here of the person that he's accused of murdering.
Yeah, I mean, and it's been a 5-year search for it, and still nothing has come up yet. You mentioned all the delays. We spent the past week covering a lot of those delays, the context, the background of this case at length. And today is the day where, we're not entirely sure what we're going to get today. Of course, today is opening statements, but this is where it starts. This is where we're going to start getting a stream of information. We previewed it at length last week, and we kind of gave you an idea of what you were going to see this week and going forward. Essentially, tomorrow, we're going to recap today. Wednesday, we're going to recap Tuesday. On and on and on. Of course, this is a 3-month trial. It will become maybe a little more spread out as time goes on. We want to make sure that we're covering as much of it as possible, but we also want to make sure that we're able to get to some of our other stories as well. But this, like you mentioned it, this is something that here at the station, I'm assuming at other news outlets here locally, this has been the big one. This is the one that we've been waiting for a super long time, and today it's finally getting underway.
Yeah, finally underway, and again, one that will likely capture national and even international attention. Of course, for those of you, if you're not familiar, Larry Millete is someone who was charged with killing his wife, Maya, who famously went missing back in January of 2021. Her body, as we said, has never been found. Our Tori Apodaca covered and previewed today's opening statements as well as the trial. What are some of the biggest questions and factors that could be in this case? Here's her report.
Hi, good morning. That's really going to be the biggest challenge, the fact that Maya Milliete's body has still never been found. So the case will really rely on circumstantial evidence.
So we don't know what happened. And then if something did happen, then we have to answer the second question is, who did it? I think the defense is going to come with an opening statement that's going to say, we don't know what happened. And we don't know who did it.
Now, that was the last known video of mother of 3 Maya Millete. She disappeared from her Chula Vista home back in 2021. And you just heard from criminal and civil attorney unrelated to the case, Brian Watkins, who says without a confirmed cause of death, that's what we'll hear a lot of, what we do versus don't know. Maya's husband, Larry Millete, has been adamant since then that he is innocent, but it'll be up to the jury of 7 women and 5 men to decide on that. Another criminal defense attorney unrelated to the case explains what will happen before the jury hears opening statements today.
So the judge will pre-instruct the jury and he will issue commands that follow the law, such as Mr. Millete is presumed innocent. You have to find proof beyond a reasonable doubt to find him guilty of these charges.
So those opening statements will be happening here at the South Bay Courthouse starting at 9 a.m. It is expected that this entire trial could take around 3 months. You may remember, though, the judge ruled that cameras will not be allowed inside the courtroom, but we, of course, will be sitting in and bringing you all of the latest updates. Reporting from Chula Vista this morning, Tori Apodaca, News 8.
All right, and as we come back here into, of course, the Right Now studio, I think for a lot of people, it's important to point out that there's going to be a lot of opinions, a lot of legal opinions that will be given by a number of lawyers that are not tied to this case about where they see this going, what strategies are going to be employed. And I think it's always best to sort of remember that those are the opinions. It's the same as listening to an analyst in terms of sports, right? People are going to have how they think a case should go, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's where things will end up.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken to multiple different legal experts. You mentioned defense attorneys, those that are unrelated to the case. So yeah, you're definitely getting a wide spectrum of legal analysis, a lot of which we have covered here as well, especially when it comes to this case in particular, because as Tori mentioned, there is no body. So this is going to be much more interesting than perhaps one where a body was found, because it's less about the direct ties between what was found at the scene of a crime. It is circumstantial, as she mentioned. We were kind of surprised to learn starting last week when we did our initial real deep dive into this case on Monday about how often these no body cases really are a lot more common than people would think. Of course,
go to
this
trial,
one, that go to trial. This one is of higher, I would say, notoriety than some of these other ones. So it's kind of easy to assume that this is an exception, and it's much less so than we had originally anticipated. And a lot of times, if that circumstantial evidence is high enough, the conviction rate can actually be extraordinarily high, much higher than people said. Of course, legal experts that we just mentioned, the biggest thing that they're probably going to assume the prosecution is going to talk about when it comes to that circumstantial evidence is the behavior and the relationship between Larry and Maya in the months that were leading up to her disappearance. There was a bunch of different things that we had mentioned: spells, texts, their living arrangements, a bunch of other testimony from the family members. Of course, we've seen that not on the stand. We've seen that in various interviews conducted by various outlets about how Larry was behaving in public settings, may that be some sort of family gathering or whatnot. But we actually, on Thursday, we had Jenny Day join us here on the show. She, along with our Kelly Hessedal, are going to be the two primary reporters that you will be hearing from as this trial continues. Here, they're going to the courtroom. But she mentioned this. She mentioned what we might see from the prosecution. Take a listen here.
I think the prosecution is really going to point to that growing desperation that he, it seems he wanted to save their marriage. There was overwhelming evidence that she wanted to get a divorce.
Yeah, and I think that with that conversation that we had with Jenny, we went over a number of those things that might lead to what we believe is homicidal ideations, right? And what is it that would sort of lend someone to think that, or again, what evidence would be used to sort of support that? And of course, the spell casting is one that, besides the fact that it obviously was one that made a lot of and caught a lot of people's attention for the very reason that you might expect, right? Spell casting, it's something that is seen as strange or weird, and therefore would catch a lot of people off guard. But there's also some context to it, right? So you have from September 2020 until the day that Maya vanished, Larry was paying someone, a spellcaster, for spells up to $1,154 to make his wife love him again and remain in their marriage. The number of purchases increased in December of 2020 and through the first week of January of 2021. January of 2021 is very important because that's when the payments stopped, and that's also abruptly when Maya disappeared on January 7th.
Yeah, another thing that you're likely going to see the prosecution mention is the nature of these spells and these wishes that were being casted alongside, because as we've documented and as we've highlighted here in the past week, a lot of it did become, it started out very, it started very basic as, I want her to love me again. I want her to want to work on the relationship, and the prosecution is going to make the case that as time went on, it became less about her wanting Larry back and more, she needs to be put into a position to where she has to rely on me.
Yeah.
It was sickness, it was injury, and it's what some of these legal experts that we mentioned described as homicidal ideation. Yeah. So, as Jenny mentioned, it's that desperation. You're able to see as the time goes on. You mentioned this was between December of 2020 and through the first week of January 2021. So you're looking at about 5 to 6 weeks there. You're able to see that process. Yeah. You got to make sure that you're able to make that case. Of course, you mentioned no body, and as Tori mentioned, the jury is going to get instruction from the judge to that recaps the concepts of beyond a reasonable doubt. That's going to play a key role here as we talk about circumstantial evidence, because without the body, there is some sort of opening. There's
Yeah.
The door is left open to poke holes in that prosecution. How we see that happen from Larry's defense team, that is left to be seen. Those are some answers that we're going to get starting right now, potentially. We're
Yeah.
probably at the point now where the judge is reading those instructions to the jury, if I were to guess. And, any minute now, we're going to start to see those opening statements really begin.
Yeah, 9 a.m. is generally when court proceedings get underway. Now, that doesn't mean we were going to jump into opening statements. As you said, instructions, as you kind of highlighted and went through there, obviously what is likely going to be first. And look, these things don't normally always start right on the dot. But we, of course, will be getting those updates from our team of reporters that will be covering this. And again, this is definitely one of those cases where I think even talking about the spells is a really good definition of what circumstantial evidence is. The prosecution will present this as this stopped on January because we believe Larry murdered Maya and therefore did not want to pay for spells anymore. But it's not foolproof, right? Because then, of course, the defense can come and say, well, Larry stopped paying for it because he ran out of money on January 7th.
Yeah, or it was she left and
right,
realized
or she
it
left.
wasn't going to work anymore.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's not, we found your DNA or we have video of you committing said crime. Those are hard fact evidence. And I know for some people, they'll be like, yeah, I know what circumstantial is, but I think the spells are a really good example of we all see that and we go, oh, wow. Or, some people might hear that and think, oh, wow, yeah, that sounds fishy. But again, it's not hard proof. And that is something that is missing from this case. So it will be interesting to see how much and what arguments are made on behalf of the prosecution. And then also, what does the defense come back with? And will it come off as, something that is just so matter of fact, or will it be sort of, what I call like mental gymnastics, like what is going to be their theory and what reasons are they going to give? The jurors don't have to necessarily believe the defense. They have to believe the prosecution, right? They have to have, without a doubt in their mind, that Larry committed
because
a crime
the burden
in order
of proof
to give.
is on them.
Exactly.
And when you're the one who's making the indictments, giving out the charges, it is their responsibility. And you make a good point, because I think it's easy to judge these things off of perhaps the way you would if you're watching a mystery film or you're watching a crime movie. You do think, okay, well, I saw him go there, so therefore this person is the killer. That's not how it goes in court. You mentioned the spells. There's also going to be Larry's whereabouts on the morning of her disappearance. He mentions that he was near La Jolla, near Solana Beach. There's no reports there's no backup evidence that is confirming that he was at those locations at that time. That's one of the instances that we mentioned. We also mentioned last week when they were living in separate beds, there was a speaker that was put in Maya's room that was playing certain, whether it was a
Subliminal messaging.
podcast
Like a
or some sort of
messaging,
subliminal messaging that had to do with an affair. Of course, Larry had been accusing Maya of having an affair with a coworker. So, but again, the burden of proof is high here. How does him potentially lying about his whereabouts on the morning link to him murdering Maya? That's going to be the responsibility of the prosecution. And as you mentioned, they have to respond to the defense as well. So it's a two-pronged thing that you got to do here to confirm your theory and to convince the jury that your theory is what actually happened.